Welcome back to This Time Last Year, the series where we remember celebrities who passed away on this day last year. This time last year, the world said goodbye to a man whose face, voice, and presence felt like home. A man who walked into a bar and millions of people shouted his name. On May 20th, 2025, George Wendt, the beloved actor behind Norm Peterson on Cheers, died at the age of 76. Today, we look back at his life, his legacy, and the final chapter of a man who made the world feel a little warmer. He was a private but well-liked actor with no real scandals, just the kind of TV show behind-the-scenes legal stuff and one off-air political mix-up that most viewers never took as a stain on his reputation. This time last year.
Flashback.
George Robert Wendt Jr. was born October 17, 1948, in Chicago, Illinois, one of 9 children in a big Irish-American family. Before he ever stepped onto a stage, he lived a very normal Midwestern life. Jesuit schooling, a rocky start at Notre Dame, and eventually a degree in economics. But the corporate world wasn't calling his name. Comedy was. He joined Chicago's legendary Second City Improv troupe, where he learned timing, character, and the art of making people feel seen. That training would change his life. On September 30th, 1982, NBC launched a sitcom set in a Boston bar, a place where everybody knows your name. George auditioned for a tiny one-word role. That word, beer. But producers saw something more. A warmth, a familiarity, a guy who looked like he belonged on that bar stool. And so Norm Peterson was born. Norm wasn't just a character. He became a cultural icon. Every time he walked into the bar, the audience shouted his name. George appeared in all 275 episodes of Cheers and earned 6 consecutive Emmy nominations. He became the beating heart of the show. Cheers wasn't George's first gig. He was in a wedding in 1978, and he played a bartender in Bronco Billy in 1980, but was uncredited in both of them. He was in one episode of Heart to Heart in 1981, where he played Sergeant Tate. Also in 1981, he was in an episode of Soap with Billy Crystal. He was in an episode of Taxi with Judd Hirsch, Danny DeVito, and Tony Danza. And in 1982, he was in an episode of Alice, starring Linda Lavin and Vic Tayback. After Cheers, George kept working. Films like Fletch in 1985, The Little Rascals, Spice World, and guest roles on SNL, Frasier, The Simpsons, and more. He even took to Broadway, playing Edna Turnblad in Hairspray. In 1991, he was uncredited in Michael Jackson's Video Black, or White playing the father of Macaulay Culkin's character. In 1995, he had a short-lived sitcom called The George Wendt Show, where George Wendt played a garage mechanic. George and Dan Coleman are bachelor siblings running an auto repair business in Madison, Wisconsin. They also host a radio show answering car questions and discussing their lives. Libby, Finney, and Fletcher are the mechanics. The show, inspired by car talk, was distinct from his famous role as Norm Peterson, and it did not feature any main cast members from Cheers as regulars or in notable guest roles. In 1997, he was in 13 episodes of The Naked Truth, playing Les Polanski. In 2001 and 2002, he played Mike Shelby for 6 episodes on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. In 2002, he was on an episode of Frasier playing his famous Cheers character, Norm Peterson. In 2006, he was on Modern Men for 7 episodes playing Tug Clark. He was in 2 episodes of Family Guy in 2007 and 2009 playing Norm Peterson. George Wendt was a frequent guest and host on Saturday Night Live SNL, most famously known for his recurring role as Bob Swirsky in the Bill Swirsky Superfan sketches, The Bears. He appeared on 9 episodes, often highlighting his Chicago roots alongside Chris Farley and Mike Myers. His last movie was Love's Second Act, where he played Bob. You can fill in the rest of the gaps if you're interested on IMDb. George Wendt wasn't just a sitcom star. He was a working actor who loved the craft. In his later years, George stayed close to family and continued making appearances at festivals, reunions, and interviews. His co-stars adored him. Fans adored him. And even decades after Cheers ended, people still shouted Norm when they saw him. On May the 20th, 2025, George Wendt died peacefully in his sleep at his home in Los Angeles. His death certificate listed cardiac arrest, with congestive heart failure, coronary artery disease, and hypertension as underlying causes. His family described him as a doting family man, a loyal friend, and someone who will be missed forever. Tributes poured in. Ted Danson said he was devastated. Rhea Perlman called him the sweetest, kindest man. Kelsey Grammer said he was beloved by millions. Fans around the world shared memories of Norm, the jokes, the warmth, the comfort of seeing him at the bar after a long day. George didn't just play a character. He created a feeling. George Wendt leaves behind a legacy of laughter, heart, and humanity. He showed us that the quiet guy at the bar could be the soul of the room, that comedy doesn't need to be loud to be unforgettable, and that sometimes the most iconic characters come from the simplest moments. This time last year, on May the 20th, we lost George Wendt, but the warmth he brought into the world will most certainly never leave, because in every rerun, every punchline, every Norm shouted across living rooms, he's still right there on that bar stool. May George Wendt continue to rest in paradise.
George Wendt here, and I just wanted to say hi. God bless. Cheers.
If you were a George Wendt fan, or if you enjoyed this video, throw me a thumb. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more videos like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.